Welcome back to the 2018 Granny Square Crochet Along. Today we are making this tartan square. It is St Andrew's Day in Scotland, and so it seemed the perfect opportunity to make this tartan square. The perfect day for it. So we are making this. You can use any colours you like, any amount of colours you like. You could make it all in one colour, and you'll just have rows of mesh. It's a mesh square, and then chains going through that we weave through. So you could do it in one colour, but it won't show as much. You could do it in your own tartan if you know the colour of that. If you don't know your tartan, then there are lots of websites that you can type in your name, your surname, and it will tell you what clan your name kind of descends from. And then you can search for the tartan belonging to that clan, which is what I did for this. This isn't quite the same as the one that I found, but almost. I think it found that my surname belongs to the MacLeod and Sutherland clans, and I think this one was from the Sutherland clan, I think. I'm not 100% sure. So you could, if you want to, you could search for your ancestry and your family clan and the tartan for that. You could do that, or you could just do completely random colours. And if you can hear that, that's the wind whistling quite abruptly today. It's very windy and wet out there. So if you heard that, so yeah, you can just search on Google and look up, you know, clan names and tartans and see what you find, or just look up some tartans and see what you like the look of, and then choose your colours from there. And when we make these chains, we are making them the same colours as the rows. Okay, so we make the rows of mesh first, and then we make these chains, and then we weave them through. So you will need the same amount of chains as your rows. So I've got 6 rows of blue, so I did 6 chains, 6 sets of chains of blue as well. So make sure you've got enough of the same colour, and it just makes it look more as tartan would look. So anyway, there we go. Without further waffling, let's get started. Okay, so to start our square, you want to chain 28, chain 28, and then in the 6th chain along, you're going to do a double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 chain along, double crochet, and the first 5 chains will count as a chain, a double crochet, and another chain. Okay, and then we're going to chain 1, skip a chain, and do a double crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next, and you're going to repeat this all the way down until you get to the end, and you'll be doing a double crochet into your last chain, and you should have 13 double crochet including your first chain, and 13 double crochet and 12 chain spaces. And here we go at the end of row 1. So for row 2, you want to chain 4. Now if you are changing colour, then by all means go ahead, change colour. I'm doing a 2nd row of blue for this. But if you want to change colour, then feel free to do so. So I'm going to turn your work around and chain 4, and this counts as a double crochet and a chain 1, and then you're simply going to do a double crochet into the double crochet and chain 1, double crochet into the double crochet, and chain 1. So all the way along here now, you're going to have a double crochet into the double crochet and a chain above the chain, okay, all the way along until the end, and I will meet you at the end of this row. Okay, when you get to the end of the row, you will be doing a double crochet in the second chain from the top, okay, second chain from the top, do your double crochet. There we go. So you've got exactly the same amount of double crochets and chain spaces as you had on the previous row. So this is how you're going to complete the whole square, doing the mesh, changing colour whenever you desire, and make your tartan up that way. So if you've got a colour pattern to follow, then by all means go ahead and follow that. So I'm going to change to green for my next row, and you want to follow this for 12 rows. So you'll have 12 rows of double crochet, 12 rows of these 12 of these holes. Okay, so do your 12 rows of whatever colours you fancy, or even one colour if that's all you want to do, and then I will get back to you when I have done all of my 12. And here is my finished square, my finished mesh. So you can see I've got all the tails of my work here still. Now with this tartan, you can choose whether you want to have a fringe. If you want to have a fringe on all sides or just on the side, the top and the bottom, entirely up to you. For the sides, where you have rows where you've not changed colour, the way that you can do this is just like here where I've got 2 green rows without a colour change. I can just grab some green yarn and attach it, just tie it around the side there and make those tails there. Okay, so if you've got any sides like that don't have a tail and you want to do a fringe, then by all means just go and tie some small pieces of yarn onto there, okay, and all the way down. Okay, so that's what we're going to do for this. Also, we're going to be doing a border, and there is a way of doing the border with keeping your fringe as well. So we'll just neaten this side up where we've got our chains and where we've started our rows. So it will just neaten that up nicely. Okay, and you can just work over these ends. If you don't want a fringe, you can just work over these ends rather than sewing them all into the rows, or sew them in, whichever way you prefer. So that's entirely up to you. But to finish our tartan, to make this a tartan square rather than just a pretty mesh square, which I think it looks great just as a mesh square, it looks great as it is, but to make this into tartan, and we're going to make some chain strips. So I have some here that I've just made, and I have exactly the same amount of strips as rows, so 12 rows, 12 strips of chains. And I have here, you can see I have 2, 4, 6 rows of blue. So I have made 6 chain strips of blue. And then I've got 4 green, 2 and 2. So, oops, I've got to make 2 more. I only made 2 green here. So I need to make 2 more green, and then I've got 1 yellow and 1 red. So I've got those here as well, 1 yellow and 1 red. So you want to make your chains, which are going to be woven through, and you want to make the same as what you have for rows. So like I said, 6 blue, I've got 6 blue rows, a yellow and a red, and then I need to just do 2 more green to have my 4 green, and then I'll have the 12 chains strips. And what you want to do is leave a tail on each end. So I left a nice long tail before I made my slip knot, and then when I fastened off at the other end, I left a nice long tail as well. and you're going to chain 24, so make these strips of 24 chains. But that 24, what you need to do before you fasten off, just measure against your mesh, and you can see this is about the same height and length as my mesh. If it's not the same length, because some people chain quite tightly, some people chain quite loosely, if it's a lot longer, so if it's kind of like hanging down off the edge here and you've got a lot of extra, then just undo those chains before you fasten off. Okay, similarly, if it's up here and you're missing a couple of rows because your chains are really tight and you still need some more, then just add some chains to it. So you need your chain strip to be about the same height as your mesh. Okay, so 24 chains is about right, and that's what the pattern says, and I made 24. I think 1 or 2 I measured and they were a little bit short, so I just added a chain. So that's what you want to do. Make 1 for each row, and then when you've got all 12 strips, I will see you back here. I'm going to make my 2 green, and then I'll come back and show you what we're going to do with them. Okay, so I've got all my chains now. I've got 4 green now. And what we're going to do is weave them through in the same order that we made our rows, okay? So if you want to lay your strips out in colour order, then by all means go ahead and do that. Whether you want to start at the top or the bottom is entirely up to you. Okay, and what we're going to do, I'm sure probably most of us have done a little bit of simple weaving when we were children. We're just going to go under and over, under and over, under and over. So under, over, under, over. Okay, I'm going to weave them through like so. Okay, so under, over, under, over. And we're going to go under the right side rows and over the wrong side rows. Okay, so this first row at the bottom will be the right side row. Okay, so if you think it might be a bit fiddly to thread these through, then what I've got is a nice chunky needle, and I'm just going to thread this through that needle. Okay, that will just help me to take this through. So I'm going to go under the bottom, over the next row, under, over, under. Okay, just going to take that through, pull that up, just remember you've got the yarn from the ends of your rows that will be fighting with you, as this one has done. So let's start that again. Let's move this yarn out of the way. There we go. Okay, so under, over, under, over, under. Okay, take that up. So over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and then it should be under at the top. If you've got 12 rows, it will be under the top and under the bottom. Now you can see I've pulled this too far, so I'm just going to pull out this tail, take out my needle, and then I am just going to use this tail at the bottom here and pull it back down. Hold my square straight, and it's a bit of a sort of a game of getting it in the right place and just wiggling it around, making sure that it meets at the top and meets at the bottom. So there we go, you can see it's going over, under and over, under and over, all the way down there. Okay, so then my next row was blue, so I'm going to do blue again. So we are not changing the order as you normally would. On this row we would alternate and change. Where we've got an over, we would do an under, but we're not doing that on this pattern. We are just going to do it in exactly the same way. so that we start going under and we finish with going under. So going to the next row of mesh or next column of mesh, under, over, under, over, under, pull it through a bit, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, and then pull that through, go under that last one, and just pull that tail through and give it a wiggle. Make sure the chain's all through. The tassels kind of hide it a bit, but persevere. So there we go, there's our second one. There's a bit of a red tail there. So you are going to have to deal with all these ends. You could have sewn those in before you did the weaving through if it annoys you and bothers you, but just adjust these chains so they fit nicely at the top and bottom. Okay, you want each row to have the chain and not the tail going through. So there we go so far, and then my next row is red, so I will take the red one and I will weave that through. So I'll just do that one with you now, and then I will leave you to weave all of yours through, and I'll come back and show you when I have all of mine woven through. So again, remember, you're going to go under, over, under. We're doing it exactly the same way. We're not alternating each row. Each row is done in exactly the same way. Okay, so if you've got 12 rows, you'll be going under the first row and under the last row, and then just make sure you've got that chain at the top and the bottom. This chain's obviously a little bit longer. You can either undo and just take out a couple of chains, or you can weave it through, or you can work it in with your border. Just sew it along, just fold it over and work your border along over the top of it. Entirely up to you what you prefer to do there. So that is my first 3 rows done. So it's just the rest of the rows to go. So continue weaving these through in the same order as your colours, and I'll see you when I've done all of mine. Okay, so there's my tartan square, and I love the way this works up. It's so cool. And I've just trimmed my ends because I'm not going to have them as a tassel or fringing. I'm going to work over them, so I've just a bit less bulk. So for our border, you can join into any corner you like. I'm going to start in the bottom corner and just join my yarn in there. And you could use a completely different colour yarn. You could use one of the colours from the tartan. Completely up to you what you fancy doing for your border. If you are having tassels or fringing, whatever you fancy calling it, you will work the border in the same way, and then at the end what you'll do is either use your hook, a smaller hook, or your needle, and you'll just pull these back through. Okay, you'll probably have some little loops of those left, and then just pull them through. Okay, but I'm going to work over mine, and I'm going to do chain 1 and then 3 single crochets in this corner. So each corner will be 3 single crochets. Okay, and then what you want to do is find your chain that you threaded through, and you're going to do a single crochet through that last chain of your chain strand and over the chain space. Okay, so go in the last chain and then over the chain space and through, and make that single crochet, and that just attaches that chain and secures that to your square. Okay, so then you're going to do a single crochet in the double crochet. So this is the bottom of the double crochet, Okay, and then you're going to get your next chain and do a single crochet into that last chain there, top chain, and over that chain space. So there's lots of things going on here, lots of ends and lots of bits going on, but you can do it, I know you can. Okay, and then a single crochet in that double crochet. Okay, so you're going to work along and do a single crochet into the last chain of your piece, your last chain here, and over that chain space to secure that. So I'll just do this last one with you. You can probably see it on the red a bit better. Okay, and I'm just securing those ends under as well, like so. Okay, so this little one, I'll just chop that off. So that's now secure, this chain here. Okay, and then a single crochet into that double crochet there. Okay, there we go. So continue that all the way along, and then in this last in this corner you're going to do 3 single crochet, and then work up the sides, and you want to do 2 single crochets into the ends or the sides of each double crochet or chain. Okay, so 2 single crochets in each, so you'll have 24 single crochets along the bottom and top, and 24 along each side. And secure these chains at the top just the same as you did at the bottom. Okay, so complete that all the way around, and I'll see you when I've finished. So here we are, I've made it through all those ends and I've done my border, and there we go. There are a lot of ends to work into your border or to sew in if you're not keeping it as a fringe. But I think you'll agree it is worth it. I love the look of this. I think it's very clever, and it was great. So I hope you found this tutorial useful and helpful, and you've enjoyed crocheting along with me. If you have, then please click that like button and give us a thumbs up. We are always very grateful for that. So any comments or questions, leave them at the bottom of the page in the comments section or in the Facebook group, and if you're not a member there, then the link is in that description below too, and I can't wait to see your photos in the group to see how you've made your tartan. So until next time, just keep hooking and don't let your tea get cold.